Hello and welcome to the next instalment of the Astrological update for December. Now we're looking at the week commencing the 15th to the 21st of December. As always, my name is Gordon and I'm going to be your host for the next roughly about 15 minutes as we look through the star signs from Aries through to the lovely Pisces. Aries. This is quite an expansive week for you, Aries. We see in your own sign Uranus, which is the planet of expansion, starts on its way retrograde, which means it appears to move backwards. And as it does so, it comes into contact with, one could say, the sort of volatile energies of Pluto. Now, Pluto is all about knocking down and rebuilding. So Aries, you may find that elements of your life start to come into focus where there is a need to make a decision. The moon also comes quite nicely into your seventh house, and this sets off an aspect between Uranus and Pluto. What does this mean? How does it realize itself in the terms for Aries? Well, it means decisions are going to need to be made. And it's almost, I want to say, with the gut feeling that you have. It can show itself as a feeling of needing to get things out in the open. So something that's been pressing you for a little time now needs addressing. But the key point is here, it needs addressing using your gut feeling, because you'll find as you move towards the end of the week and the sun moves into Capricorn, you'll feel quite relieved. There's a feeling of a weight being lifted off your shoulder. Now your ruler, which is Aries, does come to the rescue here, and it forms a lovely aspect between Pluto and Uranus to help give the energy to ease the transformation. It's a great week for you, Aries. You should feel by the end of the week uplifted and the feeling of a real good transition moving through your life, which is really blowing away the cobwebs in a very, very positive way. Taurus. Your ruling planet is Venus, and this week it comes into direct conjunction with Pluto. As we've heard before, Pluto is all about destruction, transformation. This happens in your ninth house, so this is the house really of expansion as far as thoughts and your borders are concerned. Now also with Pluto this week we are seeing this square happening, which in your case is between the 12th and 9th house. So there's quite some transformational things going on with you, Taurus, but it's more to do with where you want to be with regard to relationships and thoughts. So it's a very important time for you. Not really a time for action this week, Taurus. It's more a time for laying up the plans, being prepared for what it is that you really want to do around the emotions, most importantly. Gemini. Gemini, things around you just recently have all been about getting things back onto an even keel. And as we look at this week, everything really gets exceedingly busy in your seventh house, which is the house of relationships. You're getting conjunctions with Venus, and we're getting conjunctions with Mercury, Saturn, and the Sun. This is all to do with learning lessons from the past, but leaving the past in the past and starting to move forward. So it can be quite a transformational time for you. And with you, Gemini, the square that is occurring with Uranus and Pluto, which Uranus is obviously is what we're talking about, is retrograde, but this is all to do with your hopes and your fears. So it's a very positive time for you, Gemini, in that things that you've been planning and anticipating now really seem to be coming to the fore. The lessons learned are in the past, and we are into pastures new. Wonderful week for you, Gemini. Very, very uplifting, and by the end of the week you should be very keen and seeing a way forward for your situation. Cancer. Your ruler, Cancer, is the moon, and this week as it passes through your fourth house, it forms an opposition with the expansive energies of Uranus that are working their way back through your 10th house. This can be a time when it can be very much a head versus the heart decision. Your 7th house is exceedingly active, which is the house of relationships, as Pluto meets Venus in a conjunction. Now, this is going to really be a time for starting to sort things out, Cancer. It's no longer a time to be carrying dead weight, shall we say, on your shoulders. So you are going to be looking at what it is you really need and what you don't need. It's a great time for getting rid of what is no longer any use to you, really planting the seeds as we go into 2015, because when we see the slow-moving Saturn changing signs, that sets things up for the next couple of years. And this really is the setting for your week, Cancer. It's a time for sorting the wheat from the chaff and deciding what you really do need around you, as opposed to what you don't need around you. Leo, your ruler is, of course, the Sun. And as we see this week, the Sun starts to leave the constellation Sagittarius. And by the end of the week, as we go into next week, we'll be in the more serious sign of Capricorn. But as it does so, it smooths through your 5th house and it's very much at home in this position, your energy. And the Moon really gives it a little bit of support as the Moon comes into Scorpio. Now, Scorpio is very intense. So as you go towards the end of the week, Leo, this could be a time really for sorting out relationships. And this can work in both ways. You can expect, because Mars is already in your 7th house, this gives energy to relationships and how you see them. And with the Sun changing sign, or just before it changes sign, it always creates energy as well. So this can be a superb week for people coming in and out of your life as far as relationships are concerned. On the work front, things seem to be a little bit mundane. It's just a question of keeping the nose to the grindstone. But you have this Pluto and Venus conjunction, which with you is in your 6th house. And this shows that things are gradually growing behind the scenes. So a wonderful week for you, Leo. Great for lovely surprises. Watch out for those Christmas parties around the romantic front. Virgo, your ruler is Mercury. And when we will look at where Mercury is currently in your chart, we see that it's actually shifting signs. It's moving from your 4th house, and then moving into the 5th. Now, this is quite exciting news for you, Virgo, because in that same house, which is going to be in the house of Capricorn, we also find Pluto and we also find the love planet of Venus. Now, there is a lovely little combination that comes up here, which links with Neptune in your 7th house as well. When all put together, and we look at the position of the Moon, this can be a fantastic week for new liaisons, romance coming in. This can even mean an ex coming back because of the effects that we see from Saturn. And if it is an ex coming back, any situations where you're hearing from ex-partners, it means that they are actually coming back on a much more profound level. So they seem to have learned their lesson in some way and are willing to negotiate and talk and see where things went wrong. For those without the exes going to the Christmas parties this coming week, fantastic time for meeting, falling in love, those perfect romantic liaisons. Libra, this can be quite an important week for you. We see the Moon as it passes through your 1st house. This starts to spring the emotions. There are connections with your ruling planet, which is Venus, also Pluto and Mercury. And as we look at that, I would say the clashes that occur with these planets cause action. Now, this is really a call to arms for you, Libra, and it's a very positive call to arms because it means that you see situations this week for what they really are. There is also a bit of a push to make decisions really around relationships, and this is to either move them forward to the next level, making sure that you're really confident in those relationships. Those that you're not confident in, those that there is any form of doubt, seem to be pushed to the side. This is a great time as well for sorting out any other form of relationship that you have with yourself. So if you're not feeling happy with something, if you're not feeling happy with where you're living, the decoration around the home, this is also a great time to make this into much more of a positive change. It's quite an uplifting week for you, Libra, quite a changeable week, and this will go on as we move into the energies of next week, when you just take this one stage further. So an absolutely fabulous time for achieving really what you want to achieve. The energy is very much around you, Libra, and where you've been thinking perhaps in the past, because a lot of Librans have had quite a tough year, this is a time to make you really start to think clearly, straight, and go for what you really need into your life. Fantastic week, Libra. Wonderful, Scorpio. This week sees things starting to move forward for you. Now, if last week you were hunting around thinking nothing is really happening, where am I going, what's going on, why when I send out I don't know, communications, am I not getting reply? This is the week where the blockage seems to actually open out. Communications, fantastic this week, and I do feel that you're going to be getting phone calls. It's a great time for setting up meetings. It's a great time for moving things again forward, and this seems to come almost from the universe. So things that you've been waiting on, especially around work, do start to move forward. The key really with this week, Scorpio, is just making sure you know what it is that you want, because things do seem to be moving forward, and if you don't have a plan, then basically you could find yourself in a situation where it's causing probably more confusion than it is enabling you to move forward. So the first thing is to be prepared that what you've sent out is now going to be starting to come back. This can be to do with relationships, but I feel it's really centered around work. There's quite a grounding feeling on this, and people wanting to talk to you, wanting to set up meetings, wanting to know what it is that you need to have from them. Very positive week, Scorpio, and the theme continues as we move forward into the following week. Sagittarius. Things do seem to be coming to a head as far as earnings, wealth, money, anything to do with the work environment is concerned. It seems to be stepping up a grade. You seem to be enjoying your work arena more. Money does also seem to be coming forward. It's a great time for bringing financial contracts to fruition. As we look a little bit further on with you, Sagittarius, you do seem to be sorting one area of your life out. As we move into next week, then the plans start to get a little bit deeper for sorting out any other areas that do seem to be coming to the surface. Capricorn. Everything piles into your first house this week, bar the sun, Capricorn. So it's quite an exciting time. Now your ruler Saturn is again about to change its sign going into Sagittarius. But at the moment, it is still there in Scorpio. Now, this week is all about bringing things to a head, bringing things to a culmination. You seem to have been going through a time in your life where you've been putting all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together. As we move into this week, this is the time when we start to really look at what the picture is revealing. There's still a couple of missing pieces, but in general, we're getting a very good feel. Now, the essence around you, Capricorn, is that everything is coming into fruition. It's almost like you could say this week, your motto for the week was, I told you so. Things that have been hidden under the surface, things that other people couldn't see and you could, now bubble up and become very, very clear. This is a week for moving forward in your own energy. Although you don't need to do very much, the key this week is the realization that now you know where you're going, because things that have been hidden up until now have now been revealed. As you move past Christmas and go into the new year, that's where the action starts to take place, and what you've been planning and seeing at this point in time really comes. Lovely Aquarius. Mars which goes a little bit against the grain because you like to think outside of the box. Mars is quite an aggressive planet that tries to make things happen. It pushes people. This sits in your first house and will do for quite a bit longer. But as it's in your first and moving through the first house, which is all to do with you, it is trying to push and motivate. Now this week, towards the end of the week, it comes into contact in a very pleasant way with your ruler, which is Uranus, which is sat in your third house. The third house is all to do with communication. It's to do with opening things up. It can also be to do with short journeys. So very simply, towards the end of the week, you can find travel coming a little bit high on the agenda. But the main thing here is all about planning. Is all about your dreams, Aquarius, because there seems to be a situation developing around you where you seem to have moved back a little bit to where you were earlier in the year. So although you've tried to make moves forward and you've tried to make changes have been made, but they're not necessarily as strong as you wanted them to be. This is a week for really starting to consider where you want to be in 2015, lining up your plans, because as we go through the early part of 2015, certainly up to about April, there is further changes coming in for you, very positive changes, and this week is a time for planning and sorting out what it is really that you... Pisces, lovely week for you, Pisces, especially around anything to do with work. There's a lovely set of combinations happening with Venus, Neptune, Pluto, and also Uranus. Uranus really most importantly in your second house. Second house is money, pound, shillings and pence. Things coming necessarily to quite a nice fruition. There is also another nice aspect that is made between Venus and your ruler, Neptune. Now, Neptune is all to do with, it can be to do with romance, but it's to do with letting go. It's to do with having a good time. Now, when this combines with Venus, which is in your 11th house, this not only can give you a boost as far as things that you hope for and things that you're looking forward to, but it also gives a boost to the social circle. Now, Neptune and Venus, when they combine together, can make for some romantic contacts. So this can be a great time for meeting new romantic contacts coming in through contacts with friends. So parties, invitations, that kind of thing that on the surface appear to be just a simple invite can turn into much more and make for some really nice relationship liaison. Well, that's it for this week, and thank you once again for joining me. My name is Gordon Robert, and if you wish to get in contact or wish to have an in-depth reading yourself, or for me perhaps to calculate your own personal birth chart, then please get in contact with the website or through the website on the address shown below, which is www.gordonrobertspiritmedium.com. Thank you once again for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.